Not even winks, just twitches. Just,
Well, see, I can't wink.
no?
So
oh,
I,
yeah, you can't.
So I blink and turn my head so it's the illusion.
Oh.
That's why I'm a good wrestler, because
You know how to illusion a wink.
yeah. So like you think I'm winking, but I'm just blinking, and you're not seeing this eye.
Right now, try your damnedest to wink. What's the... Not blink, wink.
That's what I did.
Looks like you're twitching. You're twitching and blinking at the same time.
This is exactly why it didn't happen.
Okay. That's why you don't...
So when I wink, you got to be like, "Hey, girl," and then it's like, "Why'd you turn your head?" Because I'm blinking.
Yeah?
That's why.
It's all psychology, huh?
It's all in the head.
All right. Well, let's start out.
Nice glasses.
Name, location, debut year.
Name, location. Like real name?
Whatever you want to give. Brock Hall, Brock Burkholder, High Velocity, Brock Hardy, Block Hardy, Block Party, whatever you want to say.
That's a lot of things.
I'm giving you multiple places.
I see that. I Brock.
I Brock, is this a Will Smith movie? I Robot. My editing is going. I'm going to hate editing this already.
And this is already your fault.
What's your name?
I thought you were going to say,
shit.
I thought you were going to should have brought a lunch. Okay.
Name, location, debut year.
Location of what?
Where do you reside from? Could be Green Bay. It could be White Hills, New York.
White Hills?
White Plains.
You're the worst. You don't even pay attention. You didn't care about my career at all.
I don't interviewee study.
Interviewee study says.
You're the interviewee. I'm the interviewer. I didn't study your stuff at all.
You know who would study my stuff?
No, I didn't look at any of your stuff.
No, I said, you know who would have?
Who?
Got fantasy football.
Andy Barnes. He's a terrible human being.
Okay, so Brock Burkholder. Brock, insert last name here for many years, but Brock debuted in 2012, February, at the Baba Louie's for the debut of Fight Night.
That's a choice
Fight
one.
Night. It's something.
Okay, I remember that. That was a weird night.
It was a weird run.
show. Yeah.
It was something.
Unique.
It was different.
I remember shoeless Tyler Jackson, like with welts on his face from getting punched from Smash.
Because it was MMA, brother.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
It wasn't. It wasn't at all.
It was an idea. Where did you train, and who by?
So, multiple trainers. I originally started in March, April of 2011 in Appleton, Wisconsin, for Packerland Pro Wrestling under Chris Bassett, the Cobra. And went down there, started training trained down there probably about 2.5, 3 years. But then I also started training with Shane Hills in 2014, it was like 2012 to 2014, 2015, I trained with Shane as well. So I was doing both camps for about 3 years. So.
Okay. What made you make the jump from just watching professional wrestling on television and wanting to be a part of professional wrestling? What was that gap there?
Well, I want to. This is the only thing I ever wanted to do my entire life. Like when I was 2 years old, I got my first action figure and started watching wrestling, and that was it. Like there was literally no other option like for me in life. It was like, hey, what do you want to do? I'm like, oh, I want to be a wrestler. Like, I remember like getting to like middle school and like the middle school like, hey, guidance counselors like, hey, what do you want to do when you get older? And I'm like, well, I want to be a professional wrestler. And I've had my middle school counselor, my high school counselor, they all called me stupid and said to get a real dream because I needed to study for an actual future because that wasn't going to go anywhere. So that motivated me more. And always being like laughed at. Like everyone's like, hey, I like wrestling. I'm like, yeah, but I love wrestling. Like wrestling, this is it. Like this is my entire life. Like there's nothing about it that's not my life. I'm the ridiculous nerd that'll tell you stats that you don't need. Like you don't need most of the things I have in my head.
I do consider you an encyclopedia with WWE.
Like,
I will never. I mark my words. I will never play you at WWE trivia.
Yeah,
you made the game.
I know too many things that you don't need. So really, like when people are like, hey, like tell me about things. I'm like, I got a lot of things I can tell you about. So really, like this is all I've wanted to do my entire life. Like that was it, wrestling. But I never really had a means to get into wrestling. So of course, like 18, graduated, started working when I was 16, just doing random odd jobs and whatnot. And then I was about 20, and my dad, I started college when I was 19. And was like, hey, what do you want to go to college for? I'm like, well, really nothing. But at the same time, like, I got tired of kind of just sitting at home. So I was like, hey, let's go to college, do something. So I went, started college, started doing for graphic design, web design. And I was like, all right, cool. I like computers. I have fun with them. So I was like, let's do this, because I got sick of just sitting at home and feeling like a bum, I guess. Like, let me be productive with my life instead of just working a job that just pays.
Yeah.
So let's work towards the future. So I started that, got about 3 months in. I was doing good. Like, it wasn't like, hey, this is bad. Like, I had A's. Like, I was solid. My dad had seen an ad in the Entertainer, I believe it was, and it was like, hey, pro wrestling school, Appleton. It was like Chris Bassett, the Cobra, PPW, and I was like, well, that's cool. Like, I mean, really, at this point, like, what do I have to lose? So I was like, why not?
Yeah.
So I gathered up the money I needed for the tryout, drove down to Appleton, and let's just say, for a person that loves wrestling and really wanted to wrestle, I was completely unprepared for my first tryout.
How so? What made you unprepared?
For one, obviously I wasn't in shape. Like, I was always been a fat kid most of my life. Like, I always been a fat kid, I'm not in shape, not athletic, clumsy. So that was working against me pretty hard.
I can imagine so, yeah.
And on top of that, you would think I would know, like, you think I would just show up in, like, gym shorts and, like, a shirt.
Athletic wear, yeah.
I didn't.
What did you show up in?
So I had this really dumb idea in my head that I needed to dress like a creator wrestler. I don't know why. I can't tell you why. I don't know why. So I decided what I needed to wear for this tryout was I needed to wear random, Jordans.
Okay.
MMA shorts.
All right.
A cut-off Shawn Michaels tee. It was a pretty sweet t-shirt.
Yeah.
A Jeff Hardy chain necklace.
Okay, now you're losing me.
And gold gym gloves, like workout gloves.
Yeah, you lost me. You're ashamed of this, aren't you?
I still have photos of this.
Okay.
They're bad. They're very bad. Like, nobody needs to see these.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask for those.
I'm not going to give you those. All I can say is, if I was the people watching me walk in, as I've seen many people walking through the years, I understand why we look at them the way we do.
Yeah.
Because I would have looked at myself and was very judgy. I deserved every bit of judgment that they gave me at this time. Like, I understand their mindset when you, like, see a new person, like, let's see if they really want this. Let's beat them into leaving the business.
Yeah.
Because the Brock that walked into that camp in 2012 deserved to get beat out of this business, or 2011, I should say, deserved to get beaten out of this business.
At least you can admit that now. You can see.
Yeah, it was bad. Like, I wish I understood what I was doing then.
Yeah.
I don't regret it. Like, it was an interesting experience, but I can't tell you why I felt the need to dress like a creative character to go to a tryout. Like, in my head, I was like, yeah. I'm playing No Mercy, and I'm going to create a person. This is the things I had in my house to create myself. Here, I'm ready to wrestle.
I'm trying to view it from different angles, and the only thing I can think of is, like, they're going to take me seriously if I'm wearing a jacket. They want to make sure they know I like wrestling.
For a guy that never, ever yarded, I look like a yarder. So I guess I get the critiques when I first started.
I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, what were your thoughts before, during, and after your first camp? Other than I kind of look ridiculous.
Didn't know it then.
Oh, at the time you were really serious.
At the time, no, I would say serious, but I thought cool. I thought it looked pretty cool. Like,
wow, that's a adjusted definition.
Can you see why I wasn't cool in high school? I guess because. No. If that was my idea to be cool as an adult wrestler, I mean, I had a rough time. So,
okay.
Before I was like, I didn't know what to expect. I was like, hey, let's walk in and just, I assumed immediately in my head, I'm just going to walk in and learn a bunch of moves because that's what wrestling is. And no. It was walk in there, hey, there's a bunch of guys in here that know what they're doing. I clearly have no idea. So let's see how many push-ups I can do, how many sit-ups, how many jumping jacks, how many like burpees. And yeah, that was a rough day.
Yeah.
It was just like, hey, do 200 push-ups. Okay. Hey, do 200 sit-ups. Okay. And then I sat on the side, did all that stuff while like everybody else kind of did like actual training. And I'm just like, oh, that's cool. Why can't I do that stuff?
Yeah.
Why am I just doing this?
So you kind of, just because you didn't know how it was.
Yeah, I didn't know. Like
You thought day one you're going to be doing super.
Obviously, I it's like, you know, when I got older and like seeing people coming to camps and like, you're like, how ridiculous. Why would they think that? I thought that.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, like, I'm too dumb to know any better. Like, I'm coming up as a kid that just grows up watching wrestling, and that's all I want to do. I don't want to, like, I knew, obviously, you think, like, it's going to be hard work. Like, there's a lot of things you got to do for it, but I didn't assume that. I assumed I was just going to start doing it, and I thought the hard part was, like, learning to wrestle, and that wasn't the hard part.
Yeah. Do you think that helped you with, there's a new guy coming in, and let's say he looks like you, are you now like, I get it, man. I get it. And
Oh, no, absolutely not.
No?
I do the exact same thing that they did to me.
Oh, yeah?
I tried to beat him out of the business.
Okay.
Not because, like, I'm just trying to be a jerk, but I also know that because of how I was treated and how they treated me then, it made me want it more. Like, it made me want to, it had something to prove, like, give me a chip on my shoulder. Like, no, like, I may look ridiculous, but no, this is where I belong. Like, this is what I want to do. So, like, anybody that, if you come in here with this, like, weird idea that I want to do all these fancy moves and all this stuff, and, like, we just start, like, teaching how to bump and roll and all that stuff, and you're like, I don't really like this. Well, then you don't belong. And that's just one person that doesn't need to be here. Because, like, everybody's got dreams, but how willing are you to chase them?
Yeah.
You know, like, there's been plenty of times throughout my career, like, I thought about quitting, and it wasn't because, like, oh, wrestling isn't what I want to do. It was because it was hard. Like, it was really hard. Like, it really made you test, like, how much do I really want this? Like, how much do I really want to stay here? Do I want to show up the next day and get my ass kicked?
Yeah.
Like, is it worth it? I mean, it 100% was.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I kept coming back, because every bit of it was the end justifies the means.
So you don't regret anything?
Absolutely not. I mean, as ridiculous as it may have started off and, like, things I did, if I didn't get treated the way I did then, I don't think I would be who I am now. So I can't get mad at the people for how they treated me, because it definitely molded me personality-wise and really helped me determine how much I really wanted this.
So after training with Cobra at Packerland Pro, you, at some point, where did you make that transition? Because you're also known as one of the Shane guys.
Yes.
Where did that come in? Like, were you already wrestling? Or?
Yeah, well, I had started, and then, like, I had my first match. So I had my first match in, like, February of 2012. And that's where kind of I met Shane more, because obviously he's seen me. And then I started seeing him on shows, and they obviously, like, I would go to Cobra camp before the show. So I would do, like, I'd meet up in, like, Appleton, like, 11 o'clock or so. We'd work out to about 2-ish. I would drive from Appleton to wherever the show is. At that point, it was like Baba's or like the watering hole, and drive up, and it would be about 2:33 when I got there. They would be in the middle of, like, they used to always do camps before the shows. So I'd show up late, but they knew I had an excuse, so it's not like I got, like, beaten up for being late, like I was doing camp. So then I'd show up and do their camp, and, learn a lot, and it was fun. They were hard.
Yeah.
Definitely, there was a lot of guys back then that didn't want us there. That's 100% for sure. But Shane seen, and it was like, hey, like, obviously Shane, I think part of Shane, because if you ask him, he wanted me to quit. Like, that was a big thing about him. Like, he really did want me to quit, because, I mean, most older guys see a new guy that they don't think cares or wants it very much, and you're like, well, let's weed out the weak. Like, simple enough. Yeah. Obviously, it didn't work. Gotcha, Shane.
Yeah.
But
it's overall protecting the business.
Yeah, they want to protect the business from people that don't belong. So, like, eventually Shane told me, like, hey, why don't you come down to my camp? So I was like, well, I'm already doing one camp, but I mean, it can't hurt to do more. Like, the more knowledge I can put in myself, the better. So, like, if I get 2 different viewpoints, it's only gonna make me a more well-rounded performer overall. So I started doing Cobra's camp before shows, go to camps, do the shows there, and then Sundays, show up at 9 a.m. at Shane, do camp for 3 to 5 hours, however long those were. So that started probably like June-ish of like 2012 is when I started doing Shane's. So now I was just doing 2 camps.
Yeah.
So.
And then when you first started, was it before or after your debut match? And I'll get back to your debut match. You were reffing for a while. You reffed for 9 months.
I started training about March of 2011. July 4th, Campbell Sports for 2011, NWA Wisconsin. I had driven with Cobra and like Guilty as Charged, Mike Flood, to the NWA Wisconsin show, Campbell Sport, the big 4th of July thing. Mm-hmm. And they were wrestling on that card. It was like Mike Flood and like Benny Rodden, God rest his soul. And I got to ref. And I remember riding down in there, I'm like, I had never ref before. Like at this point, I'm just kid training, learning how to wrestle at this point. And not even learning much moves. Just like, I can't wrestle. So it was like riding the car, I was like, what do I do to ref? And I remember they were just looking at me like, do you watch wrestling on TV? And I go, yeah, do that. I'm like, okay. I mean, that seems simple enough, but not really, but I guess. So like,
when I first started reffing, all I did was, if I saw it on TV, I did it.
Yeah.
That's it. There's really no other way to train a ref. It's not.
And that's what it was for me. It was like riding down that car. I was so nervous, but it was like I got 1 match on that card to ref, and it was like, hey, I'm going to do it for them. Mm-hmm. And so got in there. It was like, hey, do what you see on TV. I was like, all right. I'm just starting in my head. I'm like, whoa, what Earl Hebner do right now? That's my guy. So it was like, okay. So I'd ref the match and, counted the old 3. And at that point, I was like, cool, that was fun. And then I remember talking to like Jason Jerry and like Bruno and those guys, like, well, do you want to keep doing stuff? Like, all right. Well, I was like, so come to the next show. I think the next show was like the water hole. So I was like, come to the water. And I was like, okay. So I started reffing. And at that point, I was like, I think, I don't know if it was water hole next. I think the next might have been like Polka Days or something like that in Pulaski. But I remember that was the first show where I started reffing like more, like full time, because it was like 1 match a show or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then I got the Polka Days and, well, the first match went on, and the referee wasn't good.
Not going to mention
who it was. But he messed up pretty bad. And it was, hey, young kid that had 1 match on the card, you're doing the rest of the show.
I've gotten that from that same ref. Because of that same ref, I've done the same thing.
So I remember like having that deer in the headlights look like, what? Like, oh, yeah, you're on next. I thought I was, get out there. Okay. So I reffed the entire rest of that show, and at that point, the rest was history. I just start reffing full time.
And I remember time frame wise, at that time when you were doing that, I wasn't around because
you were not.
I was in the military
at
the time.
You
I was
were
in my military stint.
You were not there.
I did not meet
I wish you were there, because as a referee, I would have learned a lot more instead of just like, hey, where's TJ? Wish I knew where TJ was at that time. But I didn't know who TJ was at that time.
I didn't meet you guys until after the military stint. So that was kind of awakening, because I met a lot of the new breed, I'll call them, consider them, after the military stint. When I was in the military, there was this group of people.
Yes.
Go to military. Out of the military. Like 2 of those people are left. Now it's just new people. I'm like, what?
Yeah, there was definitely a change.
All right.
Hey, it's good to go, TJ.
Good to go, TJ. Yeah, it's actually interesting. A lot of people like to wear a special shirt. Like everyone's like, "Hey, did you see my shirt, by the way?" Like in the interview for some reason. Like Rico did Eddie Guerrero.
Seen that. Yes.
Bogger had his Kelly one.
Yep.
Whatever Banana Squad means. Skylar had that one on. I don't know.
I assume Bananas and Pajamas.
Sure.
Coming down the stairs. They're coming down to Paris.
So I have a weird memory with them.
Okay.
When I was a kid.
He doesn't know that. Those bananas are like 4 times his age.
So, for some reason, my parents got me a bananas and pajamas, like little walking thing, right? Like you push a button and it just kind of like auto walks and the song goes. I don't remember why. I was like a stupid 6-year-old kid. For some reason, like somehow I ended up smelling the bottom of like the feet of that, or like that little robot thing, right?
Okay.
And I just remember it smelling weird, bad, odd, like really strong.
Did you assume it was going to smell like bananas? Because that would be a mistake.
No, I don't even know how I smelled it. It was like felt. And I don't know how I ended up smelling it, but it just was weird.
Was it burning?
No, I hope. I can't explain it. It's one of those smells I'll never again smell in my life. But if I smell it, I'll be like, that's it. It was
smells
weird.
Like a bananas and pajamas toy.
I guess.
Huh. That's something.
So that's a description now. Smells like bananas and pajamas toy.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's something.
I kind of wish I still had it. It's probably worth like $1 or $2 now. Just like literally just $1 or $2.
I'll give you 2.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I have a pajamas and bananas and pajamas blanket.
Oh.
From my sister's old, she loved those growing up. So like, when I was, obviously my sister was 8 years older, but she had Bananas in Pajamas blanket, like the curtains, and like her whole room was like that. And I mean, those were 90s.
Yeah. I remember I actually rewatched a little clip of it for some reason a while ago because I'm like, oh yeah, I wonder what it was like.
Chuck
Now,
E. Cheese thing.
now
with
that
them.
I'm older, what were Bananas in Pajamas? They were British. Did you know that?
I don't remember them being British.
They were British,
Weird.
right? You don't remember that?
Was the rat thing British too?
I don't. All I remember is a theme song when they're coming down the stairs.
Because I remember them, and then there was like the two rat things that may or may not have been like gimmick Chuck E. Cheese's.
No idea. I just remember
Those
them
things
coming
were
down
there
the
too.
stairs.
They had friends. They were the neighbors.
I remember-
I don't know if they came down the stairs. They might have walked up the stairs. Who knows?
I remember a little bit of talking, and they were British for some reason.
Weird.
All right.
That kind of makes me uncomfortable.
Debut match.
Not the British thing, but I mean, bananas that have British accents.
Bananas in pajamas don't make you uncomfortable? Just the fact that they're humanoid bananas in pajamas.
I mean, Minions don't talk like bananas
They don't.
in pajamas.
They don't. They're not British.
Huh.
Debut match.
Got it.
All right, debut match. Thoughts before, after, during.
Before, excited, obviously, like nervous as can be, because, yeah. Debut fight, I had all my, like, I'd like try 75, 80 people there, like friends, family. Drove like different states, Illinois and stuff, and it was exciting. I remember my debut was with the semi-main event at Bob Louie's Fight Night against old Bronson Bay, Mike Stafford. So like he had all of his people there because he was very new as well, and I was there, so I had all my people. So between us, we probably had at least 150 people between us alone. So that show, like watching that match back is bad because it really shows how much I don't know wrestling. It's really, really bad.
Everybody says that about their debut match.
So
It
bad.
never fails.
I don't know if there's people that are like, hey, I forgot stuff, or hey, like I may have like screwed some stuff up. But I don't think I've ever seen a match that looked more just like a really bad video game.
That video game is how you describe your debut match.
Bad video game. Where we ran out. The match was something. It was
Okay.
just a lot of moves and things for no reason.
Okay.
But there was a lot of people there, and they were excited. So like, me running out, and it was like I had like a promo earlier in the night to get people hyped up, so it made me feel excited. Like, yeah, people were here to see me. My gear was terrible. I didn't have gear. I had kick pads.
And that's it, essentially.
Kick pads on top of on top of like some Royal Rumble 1999 rock pants.
Oh.
So like the nice runners, the stripes, which I also use for refereeing.
I have used those pants for refereeing myself whenever something would happen.
So
to
it's
my
kick
pants.
pads over top of that, and then a nice purple wrestling cutoff shirt, like literally a WWFE
Yeah.
shirt with sleeves ripped off, and it was purple. And then taped up my wrists and hands because you can't punch if you don't got the tape on the hands. It's not as effective.
No.
Pretty sure that's still legit. If you're punching somebody and you don't have tape in your hands, that's why you can take more punches.
Yeah.
Because hey, if you went to a bar,
If I went to a bar.
okay, and you seen a guy at the bar with his hands taped up, okay, would you fight that guy?
No.
Would you like pick a fight with that guy?
Absolutely
Or would you
not.
pick a fight with the guy that doesn't have his hands taped up?
The guy who doesn't have his hands taped up is
He-
probably also
he's-
wearing a pocket protector and has like little thin glasses.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. If I went to a bar, I'm taping the wrists. Jordy, listen to me. This was his idea,
Yeah.
and this is a smart idea. He doesn't remember because he was drunk, but it was a great idea, and I did it one time. I taped up my wrists, and we went to the bar. And I was like, you know what? Nobody's going to fight us here because you don't fight a guy with taped wrists at a bar. Just like if you see a guy out in public and he's like doing some like big high stretches with his legs, I ain't fighting the guy because that guy knows how to kick. I ain't fighting no karate man,
Yeah.
and you ain't fighting no guy at a bar with his taped wrists up.
All right. So other than that life lesson you learned, what were your thoughts immediately after?
Immediately after was it was bad.
Immediately you thought that?
I thought that because that's what I was told.
Oh.
Being told by a lot of people, it was really, really bad.
Okay. But a lot of people, as in who specifically?
Workers
Okay.
getting to the back and being told just how much that we didn't know how to wrestle. Crowd loved it, but they were gonna love it whether we played, rock, paper, scissors or chess out there because we had people there. So I mean, really at that point, like our idea of good was incredible. I was excited. Like, I liked it. It was fun. Once it was over, it was like, oh man, like it was an adrenaline rush. I wanted back, and I couldn't wait to get again. But then you had to have the reality set back in of like, oh, that was great, but I don't know what I'm doing. So time to get back to the old chalkboard and figure this thing out.
Did that make you want to go into another match just to prove? Or
I think it originally made me more nervous because I think back then I definitely didn't have the confidence I do now. So I appreciated people telling me like the critique. Like, I'll never get upset telling me critiques. Like, I love critiques because you can't get better. I can't get better you telling me what I did right. I can only get better with you telling me what I did wrong. But back then, when I already like as a person and human being, like growing up and like getting to that point, like I always had low self-esteem. Like, it really my self-esteem really developed through wrestling. Like getting, and as stupid as it sounds, like getting better at wrestling made me feel better about myself as a human being outside of wrestling. Which, even though it doesn't mean the same thing, like life to that, it did to me. I don't know. That's part of why wrestling is such a big part of me. Like, it really developed who I am as a character outside, as a person. Like, I felt better about myself as I got, like, I almost like as I achieved something. So back then, when everybody's like crap, I'm like, gosh, you're bad, and I was like, oh man, like maybe I want to do this, and I'm not gonna stop, but maybe I'm just not good at this. You know what I mean? Like, maybe like this is those things like, hey, that's awesome that you did this. And I can take away from like leaving and saying, hey, like all the other people that loved it and they came to see me, but maybe this isn't for me. Like, it wasn't gonna make me stop, but at the same time, definitely like kind of made me sit and think about like, wow, like.
Did it almost like make you re-strategize your approach to training, to learning?
Kind of like I went back into that point. I tried to focus a little bit more, but it definitely felt like very much like I was so focused on like how bad it was that for the next probably year and a half, I was, instead of focusing on getting better, like I was always trying to get better, I was almost so focused on just don't suck.
Yeah.
And as much as that sounds like a good idea, like, hey, just don't go out there and suck, like starting off, it didn't help. So it was like every time I went out there and like, I think that was part of the buildup too, because like back then, you know, like wrestling was tough. There was a lot of people they didn't want us there, especially like going out there and like what I was doing gimmick wise, like, yeah, it was rough. Like I love wrestling, but very much like I'm not here to like bury anybody or doing that stuff because I don't care about names. But like back then, like as a kid that just really loved wrestling, you would have thought being around a group of people that also loved wrestling, you'd bond a little bit more over something. But I just got treated like shit. Like I can't dance around the fact that I was treated like absolute dog shit for no reason. Like I was just a kid that loved wrestling and tried my hardest to do everything I could to be good enough to be with all these other guys. And obviously, just because I wasn't good at it to start, like I just started. Like I wasn't going to be, I'm not a prodigy. Like I wasn't going to be just the best. But there was just more people than not that just were like, hey, instead of me seeing a guy that really likes wrestling and is trying, let's just treat this guy like absolute shit. And like as a kid that was bullied his entire life, like going through school, like from kindergarten all the way to like high school, I was always bullied. It just felt like being in high school again. And I took for the next like year just getting shit on and going to shows and just being treated like absolute dog crap by the people that were around. Definitely made me sit and think like, I love wrestling. There was many times I'll admit, like I went home and cried. And it wasn't because, oh man, I don't want to do this anymore. It's because like I loved wrestling so much and I cared so much about it that people around me made me wonder if I even loved wrestling enough. And like that was the first time in my life, like 22 years in at this point, like first time in my life I was like, man, like, do I really like wrestling enough to keep going? Like, should I really waste every Saturday and Friday and Sunday going to places where I just get treated like dog shit for no reason when I'm just being a guy that's trying to shake hands, be nice to people, like do everything the right way, and it's not good enough and I don't know why. You know what I mean? Like so that really beat me down, like starting off. It was just like, God, like I'm trying so hard to do everything I need to be a good person and be a good wrestler and do all these things. Like I get I'm not good, but why as a person am I being punished for it? You know what I mean? Like,
What made you taking so much? What made it to where you kept through and you are now?
I will credit 100% of that to Shane Hills. And that's why, as you know, I started off with Cobra, and like I will always be forever a Shane kid. And it's because if Shane didn't bring me there and try to beat me down and get me to quit, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Because Shane gave, there was a moment in camp where Shane looked at me, and I remember crying to Shane at camps about like how I was treated. And I remember Shane looking at me and like, I'll paraphrase this a little bit, I'm not gonna be exact, but Shane tells the story a lot of camps and when I'm there and to other people, and he'll look at me and be like, hey, like he looks at me and goes, hey man, at what point are you just gonna stop taking everybody's shit? And I looked at him and I was like, I don't know. He goes, have confidence in yourself. Like go out there. He goes, forget all those people. Like who cares what they say? Like go out there, like get better, and stop listing all these people. Because when are you gonna let people stop kicking you around? Because you're letting them kick you around. And at that point, it's either you leave and go home and stop doing this, or you just buckle down, you keep working hard, you close out everything from everybody else, and just go do what you love. And at that point, I was like, at that point, it made so much sense. Like, you know, like screw these people. They don't want me here. Good. That's even more motivation for me to get better. So when I do get good and do get better than I am now, and I start to belong, I can be like, screw you. You're like, I belong here. Like, no matter what shit you gave me, it's all going to come back in your face. Because me going home is giving you exactly what you want. The more I stay here, the more I keep coming back, the more it pisses you off that I'm here, the more motivation I have inside to keep getting better.
I'll say that's some pretty damn good motivation for it too, you know. And check for me, just in case I figured this out.
Reality check.
I only started doing this because of you.
You're welcome.
Like you taught me how to do this inadvertently.
If you ask Shane Hills, it's train tracks. You're welcome.
Train tracks?
Because he thinks these are train tracks.
And he's not wrong.
Don't encourage him.
Okay, so speaking of stuff like this, actually, GB3.
That's not a real thing.
GB3 is not real?
Nope.
Tell me what you know about the unreal GB3. It's an interrogation.
I've seen it on the internet. I think they're a fake faction.
Yeah?
Yeah. McMahon loves factions.
Who is in this fake faction?
I think Crush, Chains, 8-Ball, Skull. I believe they go by the names of Disciples of Apocalypse 3.
Okay. I remember them for a little bit, actually.
They may or may not have feuded with the Bariquas.
Okay.
And the Nation of Domination.
With how much you know and I don't know with an encyclopedic knowledge of the WWE, you could just be throwing these random names out and they can be completely nonsensical and non-real.
Oh no, these are legit factions.
Okay. Cool.
Because factions.
Just as real as the GB3? Okay, so what's your relation with Joey Avalon and Jordy Lee?
Jordan. I call him by his surname, you know?
Okay.
Jordan. Old Captain George.
Yeah?
God damn it. Just a couple pals, you know, palling around. And definitely an unlikely group to start. I'll start with Jordy. So my first impressions are probably the most entertaining of these two. So Jordy, I remember meeting him at the watering hole. I had to go for a Bruno meeting to watch some posters get made.
I remember those. I never went to one.
And I remember just seeing this guy wearing this stupid duck shirt. And just, it was an orange-yellow shirt.
I remember
the stupid little hands thing on it. Stupid duck shirt. I remember just like walking up, and I'm like, who is this asshole in the duck shirt? Like, who is this guy right here with his short hair, his little glasses? Hey, man, Jordan, I'm like, Brock, Bruno. we watched big posters for a while, and then that was it. But ironically enough, Jordy Adichie ended up being my ring announcer for my debut. So little nugget Easter egg there. Old Jordan Deach was my ring announcer. Little suit. It wasn't gold from Wish this time, so it's formal. Thank you. And old Joey Avalon. I remember I was still refereeing at the time when like him and Mark Prevey showed up, the old Inkjet Express. And I remember my first impression of these guys were like these like Hardy Boy-esque guys, you know, like Edge and Christian, like, you know, two long-haired guys. Ironic enough how that would have ended up being. Like, I remember just in my head going, who are these assholes? The one in the Bengals jersey and the other guy in the cut-off Twilight shirt that always shows up really close to doors.
I remember the Twilight shirt.
Yeah, and eyeliner. And I was just like, who are these guys? Like, I mean, they did a lot of cool things. And I remember like getting to referee their matches with like Dream Police and getting covered in blood, because tables and blood.
UPW?
No. This was Watering Hole.
Oh, okay.
A match with Dream Police versus Inkjet.
Still gone in this time.
Yeah. This is still 2011, like when those guys were doing that stuff. This is before I debuted. It was close to my debut. It was probably late 2011. And seeing those guys, I'm like, oh, these guys. And I was like, I mean, they look cool. Like, they look pretty awesome, and they do a lot of wrestling things. They definitely were different compared to everybody that was there. So that was kind of think we kind of got put in the same board. Like, he was like, hey, who are these guys that do stuff that is definitely different than the norm of guys that were like old school wrestling? They were definitely the more high spotty guys. Mm-hmm. So they did a lot of cool stuff. So I like watching their stuff. It was cool to like get to be involved in it. And so like at that point, like Jordy eventually befriended Avalon first, because I was of course, no confidence. I'm not gonna. Jordy was my only friend. Jordy was my first friend in wrestling, because we both kind of started around sort of the same time. Like, he was my ring announcer. Then like once I debuted, he started like doing stuff after, you know, my debut, like wrestling wise. So we started like molding together. Like, hey, friends,
Yeah.
like let's stick together, because that was it. But then Jordy, obviously, he was always the bigger personality. He would tell the stupid animal jokes that weren't funny.
I love those. Bringing animal joke books shows.
Don't encourage him. They're not funny. He's not funny. He's not. We don't need to encourage him anymore. So he was always the bigger personality of the two. So like obviously like we were there. Then like once he branched off to like Joey, it was like, hey, I'm gonna pal along with him. Like, okay. So I was still kind of by myself. Like, they started doing some stuff like together, like going up. I think they started going to like UPW, and I remember like one time like Jordy like asking me like, "Hey, you want to come with?" And I was like, "Sure." Like, I'm nervous. Like, I don't really know much things. And then like they obviously like Jordy was wrestling a lot more and up there, and then Joey had been doing a lot of things up there, and I was like, "All right, I'll get in the car with these guys." Like, go up there. Like, it was fun. But I remember just like wondering, I'm like, am I gonna get along with this tall dude with the blonde hair? Little did I know. Like that. So it started with that, and then eventually we just kept riding together for the next like 3 years.
Yeah.
To the UP every month, and it just kind of stuck. At that point, it just became like us three, and then it was always me and Jordy, then it was him and Corey, then him and Avalon, and we eventually, once we all molded together, it was like, cool, like we're there. Mm-hmm. And then people made up their little names for us.
Yeah. Was it originally kind of
It was a joke. It was because there was all these really dumb political wrestling factions that was naming themselves around the state, because wrestling gets dumb. Yes. So dumb sometimes that like we have to name ourselves these stupid cliquey factions like high school. So we eventually decided we wanted our own stupid cliquey faction name, because we wanted to make a faction as fake as theirs. It really was as stupid as that. Like, you guys have a fake faction that you guys think is real. We know this isn't, but we would also like to pretend we're a faction. So we named ourselves. Yeah. And the rest is history. And then everybody else started calling us by this fake faction.
So all the other fake factions have essentially died off, because nobody even I don't remember any of those names. But the fake faction will always live
fake
on.
Faction somehow became the realist.
So, okay, Jordy touched on it in his video. Where does this come from? I know it was you guys just were like making stuff up, and
it's literally, that was it. It was literally just a stupid thing in a car ride. Like, hey, when we take photos together, because we start like every car ride, like we have to take our dumb group photo of like driver, passenger, backseat. Like, let's get this thing and make sure that we take 30 takes, because we got to make sure everybody's in there. Because danger.
You guys all
Don't do any of these things, people, please.
You guys all three have very distinct driving styles, may I add.
We're not going to get into this, TJ. So we eventually were like, hey, let's make a thing. And we started thing, and then eventually, I think Corey was eventually the one who's like, we're doing this. And it was like this, and like, nope, this. And like, cool, that's our thing. And then we did that. And then the fake faction got a fake gang sign.
And you guys have been known for, I think what perpetuated it was showing up together, leaving together, after partying together, doing stuff outside of shows together, and like that if anything that propelled it to even more
Yes.
of a, this is a real fact.
And literally became too like it wasn't even necessarily like, hey, like we're just gonna do everything together. It was like at that point like we became literally the only ones we trusted. So in like a world of like wrestling where it's hard to trust a lot of people, and like the biggest thing they would say is like you in wrestling you meet very many acquaintances but very few friends. We were all outcasts in a sense. You know what I mean? Like I was the guy that nobody liked. Jordy was the other new guy that was just getting made fun of with his red shoes, and Avalon was a part of the tag team that like was against all standards.
Oh yeah.
So at that point it was like he don't know how to work. He sucks. This guy ain't funny. Thinks he's funny. So like I don't know. Like eventually just like the three of us just kind of like we trusted each other. Like eventually we built it up that we had each other's backs, and we kind of decided that it was like, hey, like if we can't trust anybody in the business, at least we can eventually trust each other. Mm-hmm. And then years went by, and we just got closer and closer and closer, and then it just turned into like now the stupid fake faction thing becomes even more funny because it was like I almost think we became closer friends on the idea that we wanted it to be so fake that it was real. You know what I mean? Like it was almost like we could just pretend this is a fake thing and not do anything together, but we decided to do so many fake things that real factions would do.
Yeah.
Like we just kind of, as they say in the biz, we worked ourselves into a shoot, brother. Like, and then we just at that point now, like those are my best friends. Like I don't have a lot of friends like school wise and high school wise and work wise. Like it's me, Jordy, Corey, and it's us three. And as they always say, like if you can by the end, like heard many times, like by the end of your career, if you can count on your hand, like up to five, like true friends in wrestling, like then you've done something good. Mm-hmm. As a wise man once would say. Thank you, Adam Grace. The best part about wrestling is all the people that you meet. The worst part about wrestling is all the people that you meet.
Oh yeah.
And to have two people that I can truly look at and go, these are my best friends. We all look out for each other. No matter what, we always have each other's backs. It means a lot. I mean, it's comforting. It definitely is a confidence boost. It's cool to find true friendship from three opposite universes.
Yeah.
Because there was no way besides like this weird, wacky world of wrestling where the three of us would have ever came to be friends. Because literally it makes no sense at all how we're all companions. Three opposites.
I almost feel like because of my slight associations, I almost feel like because of being an outsider in a sense,
Yeah.
I'm almost like the historian for the GBC. Like I take
You have a book that you pull out. It's the one on the top shelf to the right. You climb. You put the little ladder like Beauty and the Beast. You pull it out, blow the dust off it.
I take all the pictures for you guys. It seems a lot of the pictures. Like if there's
in front of bison.
If you guys can't take a selfie, hey, where's TJ at?
Yes,
It's usually
100%.
how it goes.
Because we know that you're not going to take a picture of yourself.
Yeah, I've hung out with you guys individually. You guys all have very different personalities too. Like,
yeah.
If I'm associating with Jordy, I'm going to expect something different. If I'm associating with you, I'm going to expect something different. If I'm associating with Corey, I know what I'm getting.
Very different. Very different.
So, yeah, it's just crazy how because of wrestling, and there is no other.
There's
way.
no reason why we should be friends.
No, you
literally
guys,
no explanation. I couldn't write this in a book and everybody go, well, that doesn't make sense. Why are you friends? I don't know.
It just happened.
Because we all like wrestling, and somehow that became a cool common bond that branched off. And now, like when we go and do stuff together, like we always have to take into account people's interests.
Yeah.
You know, like on car rides, you always know that Jordy's gonna take a bite of a taco and fall asleep because
witnessed
taco
that.
narcolepsy, real thing. You always are gonna have to worry about the fact that Corey needs a nature stop on every drive. We have all accepted this. We need to park somewhere on a drive, either to or from, and he needs to walk out to the woods as far as possible until he hears a crackle or a bear, and then he will come back. And or away in the street. We all do these things. So we have to accommodate each other. Like Jordy needs this, he needs this. I need this.
What's your thing that you need?
I don't know. I don't think I have a thing.
No, you're the normal thing. That's
I
your
wouldn't
thing.
say normal, but I mean like
You
as
need-
far
no,
as these.
No. Your thing is you need car problems. That's your thing that you need.
TJ, you know, watch your mouth. At this point, you were immediately jinxing my driving. More than I can already do.
Oh, and just because I touched on it, okay, this might be edited and it might not. I might just make a chart.
Fantastic.
This is how it goes. Brock, he'll pay attention-ish to the road. Worst driver. Like you stop 10 feet from a stop sign after going full speed.
All right.
Jordy, he's okay when he's looking at the road. The second one of his eyes leave the road,
They leave the
all
road
of a sudden we're riding in the opposite lane and there's a truck coming. That has happened on a ride to Luxembourg
Yes.
with Jordy.
Yes.
Corey, we'll look at the road on a 2-hour trip for maybe 10 minutes.
Yes, and that's a lot. That's
And
a
he
lot
is-
for him to look at the road.
And he is a very safe driver.
Yes, he can spot deer like his animal friends.
Yeah.
He will never hit any
He's
sort
like
of animal.
Aquaman. He gets the bing
He will
coming in.
find a turtle that's in the middle of the road and stop so we can move it. Nothing against that.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that.
But yet he's
But he somehow has his Snow White senses always tingling.
yet he's never looking.
No.
Like it makes no sense.
He literally is on Facebook or
Oh.
his phone or texting the other people in the car. Like,
Yeah,
but
it makes no
somehow
sense.
he's the safest driver among us.
Yeah. So you've gone through many persona changes.
Yes, far too many, but yes.
What made you finally find and go with Brock, the real Brock Hall?
Well, I think it all goes back to how I got Brock Hall. Obviously, I had many incarnations. I had the first one, which is my debut, and then I became a luchador Hoovy style for some reason for a while. I just wore a mask and I dressed like Juventud Guerrera, and then that was kind of where I was at. And then I remember I rode for UPW, and we started doing our car trips together, and I remember. Kind of really like at this point, like it all kind of started with Pete, UPW, like, hey, he had this goofy ideas, what do you want to do? And like, obviously, like, I was a big Scott Hall, Razor Ramon fan, and we kind of just started this stupid idea of like, hey, what if, can you get like Scott Hall, Razor Ramon gear made? And I was like, I mean, I guess, sure.
Yeah.
And I got Scott Hall gear made. Legit Scott Hall gear made.
I remember the bandana and the toothpick.
Yeah, and the sweet Inside Outsiders. So then next, I got paired with Devin, and I was like, hey, like, we're going to do this idea where you guys are going to be the outsiders, but like a fake Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Okay. At that point, I was just ready to wrestle.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to turn down anything. So
Even the Beavis and Butthead?
So at that point, I was like, okay, so like we're gonna do this debut, and I was like, all right, well, you're gonna be Scott Hall. So I got some jeans, and I had to debut somehow, And so my first match was under my high velocity stuff, so at that point, like that was gone. So at that point, my next match was I had my jeans. Went to it was like Fleet Farm, bought a long sleeve denim shirt because I had never bought a long sleeve denim shirt before, and I cut off the sleeves because. That's what you do in wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what Scott Hall. So at that point, I literally just came up with this Scott Hall debut attire from WCW. Got a toothpick. It was before I grew in the sweet chest hair. So I had chest hair drawn on me.
I completely forgot about that until just now.
Had it drawn on me. Went to the bar, sat at the bar, and then walked to the ring. And I made my debut cutting pretty much the exact Scott Hall promo when he debuted in WCW.
You would memorize that promo.
I did. And it turned out pretty all right.
All right.
And as stupid as it was all right. It was fun. At that point, like, as from an outside perspective, looking like, that's really dumb. Like, why are you making fun of wrestling? as a guy that loves wrestling and got to do something that I watch like around, I'm like, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Like I always wanted to be Scott Hall. Like, it's kind of badass. And had a match, and then announced like next month, I got a big surprise. And of course, because irony, my big surprise would be Little Devin, but he'd be big sexy Devin Nash.
Yep.
And he got some Kevin Nash looking gear. And we became not the outsiders because we can't rip them off like the BWO. Mm-hmm. We were the inside outsiders.
Yeah.
And
you guys were tag champs a couple times.
We were a couple times UPW tag team champions.
Yeah.
We had a nice little feud with Inkjet Express. And as goofy as all that stuff was, like that's where I became the better wrestler. Like I learned how to do spots and learned how to put those in a match and selling and really putting together like matches that weren't just like going out there and doing stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was actually putting together actual structure, and that's really where I learned structure to a match the most.
Yeah.
Because like you can preach it so many times at camp and talk about it, but when you go out there and like in your head you're like, I just don't get it. And I think part of that too is because we became heels, and up to that point I was always a face. Mm-hmm. So being a heel is where it really started. I have to know the structure of this match. For this thing to work, like we're in charge.
Yeah.
So I think at that point, once that kicked in and that gear kind of went off in my head, I was like, okay, like, got it. Now I need to know how to put this thing together in a format that people make sense, makes sense for everybody. Mm-hmm. So we started doing that stuff, like, awesome. UPW came and I was like, all right, now we're going to go other places. And like, well, what am I going to do? Like, I already started this Brock Hall thing, but my same idea was like, well, I'm not going to be Scott Hall everywhere. Like, this is like a one place gimmick,
It's not like you can be another wrestler ever again.
No,
right?
absolutely not. So
at
that
point
point
it
was
rip off the Hardy Boys or anything. Like editing's magic, baby.
It is. So at that point, like I wasn't just gonna be Scott Hall in a bunch of random places because for one, nobody's booking a Scott Hall rip off besides a joke where the joke is. So it's like, well, at that point I already had the name. So I was like, why not just keep Brock Hall? And the idea was, too, it just kind of came with, like, this concept of, like, well, who are you as Brock Hall? I was like, well, if Scott Hall Brock Hall is the fake Brock Hall, then Brock Hall that's not Scott Hall is the real Brock Hall. Oh. It's one of those dumb concepts, like, okay. And it was also cool. That was back when Twitter was kind of just start becoming, like, kind of popular. So it was like, well, now I can just be the real Brock Hall on Twitter because now people know I'm not the fake one. So stupid. Like, nobody was going to pretend to be me. Absolutely nobody's going to pretend to be me. But at that point, like, I could create a Twitter as the real Brock Hall. I don't
So with the real Brock Hall, to me, one of the most, not only is, green is your thing.
Yes. Someone's got to take green. I claim that. Yeah. Early and often.
And it's a good thing, we'll never film a commercial in front of a green screen because you're wearing nothing but green gear. That would be silly. No, somebody should definitely at least inform you of what they were doing.
Or probably not put me in that commercial.
But, or at least put you the voiceover.
I could have been the sweet voiceover.
They made me the voiceover, and I was wearing black and white.
I could have been a sweet voiceover guy.
So, but anyways, one of the most, I would say a staple of the real Brock Hall, something that you're famously known for is your theme song. There's actually a gentleman behind you right now who sang a little bit to your theme song when I mentioned that you were going to be our interviewee today.
Fantastic.
So where did you choose that song? Why? How? And
it wasn't even me. I started down in ICW for Dysfunction in Milwaukee, and I didn't know any better. I was Brock Hall. That was it. I was the real Brock Hall, but I didn't have any gimmick. I remember just like I got a chance to go to do the pre-show, and it was like, cool. We'll see if I get booked and if it works. And I remember at that time I was still using I think it was Static X. It was like a random song. Like I was using Push It by Static X because that was like my high velocity luchador gimmick music. And I was like, I didn't know any better. I'm like, it was music at that point. I worked for it. But Dysfunction is actually the one I can 100% credit to that music because he definitely has a very creative quirk about him that he can latch something onto somebody and it just works. He's very smart when it comes to his mind.
Same thing.
Yes. And he's just like, hey, you're going to use this song. And I'll be honest, I had never heard this song before. Like maybe in passing or in tow somehow. Like I might have heard it like throughout, but I had never been like, I listen to New Kids on the Block. Like the most New Kids on the Block I knew was the fact that one of the New Kids on the Block was one of the guest ring announcers at WrestleMania 10. Because NKOTB. And it didn't click in my head till years later that NKOTB stood for New Kids on the Block. Because as a kid growing up, I thought it was NKOTV. And I was like, I had never heard that TV show before. Never heard this TV show before.
Okay.
Whatever. Weird little thing. Doesn't matter. It's going to get it out.
Yeah.
So just thought I'd drop it on you. So Dysfunction, he gave me the theme song. I was like, you're going to be hanging tough. I was like, okay. So it came out to it. I was like, it's catchy. It's nice, a little beat to it, and move around. Yeah. And I was like, this is neat. And I guess you like Public Enemy a little bit to it. Do random stuff like Heel Face.
I personally love it when people don't use rap or rock for the entrance music, because everybody does.
Yeah, and it was like one of those things where it was like, it worked, and I was like, all right, so I'm just use it. And I had no reason to think otherwise, so like I started taking it other places. Like, okay, like this is catchy. And like it definitely became one of those things where you go to a lot of places and everybody uses a lot of similar music, and all of a sudden it became like kind of different. Like I was somebody that like, oh, never heard that. Like when I would tell people what my music is, you get that like take it back, like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So that was kind of neat, at least be like, oh, I'm not generic hate breed song here, like it was when I debuted, or I'm not generic, rap song or generic rock song. You know what I mean? It was like, hey, this is something completely strange, but go with it.
Yeah.
And I just started going off with it, and like, okay.
When did the Brock Hall chants come in?
I think that really started probably like 2015, 2016 maybe. Like they really like, I don't know, like all of a sudden it almost became, not to compare myself to Kurt Angle, but it was almost like the You Sucks to like the Kurt Angle theme song. And all of a sudden it just like, people just, I don't even know who did it first. Like I couldn't even pinpoint when it just started. Yeah. And all of a sudden my music would play. And I think people really just kind of got sick of how long I would take to come out right away, because I would just let it do the little like beginning thing before I like hit it, because it was just obnoxious. Yeah. And now all of a sudden people like almost found something to do during that period. Yeah. So at that point, all of a sudden it was like, Brock Hall sucks. Like, all right, do it again. Yeah. So I make them wait, and they do it again. And at that point, I was like, oh, this is kind of something here. I think I got going here. Yeah. So then at that point, like, that's it. And I was like, yes, now, probably now going on 5 years with New Kids on the Block is my theme song, and it's going nowhere.
No, it shouldn't.
It's going zero.
I cannot listen to that song. It can just randomly come onto the radio. And in the beginning, I'll be like, and to myself, I would go, Brock Hall sucks. It's just it's part of the song.
And I think that's part of it too. Is like so many people like you hear random songs and it's just a song. Like, oh, I think like so many people you hear like, oh, I used to use that song. I used to use the song, but it's so kind of neat like that. I'm one of those people like just kind of like Miley Cyrus or Jordy. Like, to have one of those people that are like have a theme song that nobody else can say, this reminds me of this person. This is Brock Hall. Yeah. Like, this is you. And I get so many people when that stuff comes on that like will message me or saying like, song came on the radio and it just made me think of you. And it's like, and it's just like,
kind of cool.
Fantastic. Like, to have a song that, thank you, New Kids on the Block. Like, somehow I've molded a song to me. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of neat. Like, to have something that's so you without it being like a custom song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So.
All right.
At the end, by the way, I hate the commercial where he's sitting in the back of a truck and just using binoculars to try and find his tip-ups when he's doing a commercial for some vehicle, and he's sitting and he's ice fishing.
Isn't it like Lexus or some stupid?
And he's ice fishing and he has binoculars.
Oh yeah.
Dude, the tip-ups are bright orange across a white background. You're going to see them. Stop being dramatic, okay? Stupid. Okay, so at the end of the day, what do you want your end mark to be? What do you want people to remember about the real Brock Hall? Like, what do you want to say to what do you want the young kids coming up to remember about you?
I think if you can learn anything is, I don't really like, hey, like, you can do anything. Like, obviously, not everybody can do this, but I also want to know people that, like, if you're bullied, you don't have self-esteem, you know, you really are down on yourself. Like, wrestling, as much as like I grew up, like I don't want anybody to experience the things that I went through because it sucks. but I don't regret going through them because I needed them as who I am as an individual person. I needed them to be who I am today. But I need, like, for people wise, I just want them to also like look at me and go, there's a guy that everybody wanted to leave. Like nobody wanted me here. I look in my mirror every time I go to shows, and it's such a weird feeling to go like 9 years ago, like nobody wanted me here. And now I'm here. And I'm wanted. And like to be looked up to by certain people. Like it's still weird because to me, 9 years in, I'm still a green kid. I will always be a green kid, not just because of my gear. I don't. When I've had like some of the newer guys come and vet me. Don't call me that. Don't use the big V word on me because there's too many actual vets that I look up to around that I'm like those are the people to look up to. Like don't like you can try to like I'll give advice and stuff, but I don't want to be like looked at like a vet. Like I'm just a guy that loves wrestling. I love wrestling. It's all I've ever wanted to do my entire life. And I've done, even if I don't get and make it, you know what I mean, everybody's end game is that. But, you know, everybody also plays football and wants to go to the NFL and win the Super Bowl. Not everybody gets to do that. Some people can just have very successful college careers or very successful, like, hey, I was on a practice squad. Or, hey, like, you have to look at goals for yourself. And for me, if I only look at getting to, you know, WrestleMania, more than likely I'm going to fail. There's too many people out there that can say, like, unless you're the main event of WrestleMania, win the title. Well, that's one person, 1 year, so what, 36, 35 people, like, they can say that they did that? What, everybody else is a failure? Absolutely not. I got to look at what I've done and how far I've come and grade that on how I feel about myself and everything I've done. Like, I can look at stuff and go, hey, there's a lot of stuff. There's tons of stuff I still want to do. Tons of stuff I still want to do. But I can honestly say, like, at any point, I think, to me, feeling successful is any point I can look and say, hey, if I would somehow have to stop today, could I be proud of what I've done? Would I be happy? Would I have regrets? And I don't. Like, I get to the point now, and I've worked with guys that I've seen on TV, like tons, like too many, like 5 different WWE Hall of Famers, tons of other guys that, as a little Brock would go, I don't think I would ever be in the ring with this guy, or like being in the ring with talent that are out doing other stuff. Like, it's just, I can't look at failure in a way of I don't make it. To me, I'm successful every day I get to go out and do it. Every day I get to go out in the ring and perform in front of a group of people that look at me the way I used to look at other guys. Like, having kids come up and say, like, yeah, and watch me and cheer for me and booing me. That's where I make it. Every time I get out there. Every time I walk out there and people either boo, cheer, indifferent. Even so, you're still there. I'm a part of the show. And being there is what's successful. Because if I look back and see 2-year-old Brock and then like middle school Brock and high school Brock and look at what I've done now, like I could have never believed that in a million years that I've gotten to do what I've gotten to do, because I get to do what I love. And not many people can go out and say, hey, do you get to do what the things you've always wanted to do? Like, a lot of people have things they want to do. Like, I want to be a fireman, I want this, but then they do then they're working in a business or an office. So when I was 2 years old, all I've wanted to do is be a professional wrestler. And now every single weekend, I get to go out and be a professional wrestler. And to me, that's a success.